Israel acted forcefully again in Lebanon, and on Thursday, April 9, 2026, the message was direct. In Israel's interpretation, the attack did not have only a military objective. What was at stake was preventing Hezbollah from moving from being a parallel power to the center of the Lebanese state. According to this version, the offensive served to block an attempt to take control in Beirut and to dismantle the structure that kept the armed group operating above the Lebanese government itself. What actually happened was a large-scale air operation. Israel reported that it hit more than 100 Hezbollah command centers in Beirut, in the Bekaa Valley, and in southern Lebanon, in what Reuters itself described as the largest wave of attacks since the beginning of this new war. It was an action to dismantle the group's command, communication, and response capabilities. The target, according to Israeli logic, was not just to launch a response, but to break the backbone of an armed force that continues to challenge Lebanon's formal government. At the center of all this is Benjamin Netanyahu on one side and Hezbollah on the other, with the Lebanese government squeezed in the middle of the crisis. Netanyahu officially announced that he has ordered direct negotiations with Lebanon to begin as soon as possible and made it clear what the focus of these talks will be: to disarm Hezbollah and try to build peaceful relations between the two nations. This is decisive because it shows that Israel is treating the group not as a secondary actor, but as the main obstacle for Lebanon to function again under the full authority of its own state. That's the central point of the headline. That's exactly it. Talking about preventing a coup d'etat is shedding light on a reality that Lebanon itself has been indirectly admitting for months. The Lebanese state is trying to regain the monopoly on weapons, while Hezbollah resists handing over its entire arsenal. In January, Reuters showed that the Lebanese army claimed to have taken operational control of the country's south, but Israel considered this effort insufficient because Hezbollah continued trying to rearm itself. President Joseph Aoun himself stated that decisions on war and peace must belong solely to the state. When there is an armed group, financed, trained, and supported outside this official chain, the threat to central power stops being theoretical and becomes a real risk. Where does this conflict erupt? In Beirut, in southern Lebanon. In the areas where Hezbollah maintains an armed presence, political influence, and its own power structure. How does this happen? With the group refusing to give up its weapons, maintaining its firepower, pressuring the government, and rejecting any solution that would weaken it. This Thursday, a Hezbollah parliamentarian rejected direct negotiations with Israel and said that any step would first depend on a ceasefire and Israeli withdrawal. Putting it in simple terms, the group does not give up the power it has accumulated. And it is precisely this parallel force that, according to the Israeli perspective, threatens to swallow the Lebanese state from within. When Israel acts with this level of force, the message is clear. First, not to accept that Hezbollah uses Lebanese territory as a permanent platform for war. Second, to push Lebanon into a tough choice. Either the state takes control once and for all, or it will remain hostage to an armed organization that decides on its own when to attack, when to escalate, and when to drag the whole nation into a war. That's the reason for the offensive. It's not just about bombing depots or operational centers. It's about preventing a militia, backed by Iran, from continuing to occupy, in practice, a space that should belong to the government, the army, and Lebanese institutions. It's true that Operation April sparked a strong international reaction. The UN described the reports of hundreds of dead and wounded as horrifying. And the crisis became even bigger because all of this happened right after the truce between Iran and the United States. But even under pressure, Israel held its ground. Lebanon was not covered by that agreement. And Hezbollah continues to be a target because for Jerusalem, there is no real peace as long as the group remains armed and influential within the Lebanese state. That's why the offensive and the negotiation go hand in hand. First comes the military clash, then the political demand. Disarmament, state control, and an end to Hezbollah's sway over Lebanon's future. In the end, the most important question is simple. What did Israel prevent? It prevented Hezbollah from taking advantage of regional chaos to expand its control and push Lebanon deeper into state capture. And why? Because as long as a parallel armed force continues to have more power than the government itself, Lebanon will remain on the verge of losing control over itself.